Welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, where we sit down and have real conversations with business leaders that have been where you are. During these interviews, we'll dive into what it takes to improve systems and champion processes that maximize performance. Each week, our trailblazing guests share their experiences and understanding of the workforce to help inspire change, challenge our thinking, and share what it takes to successfully travel the road to profitability. Now here's our host, co-founder and chief evangelist of About Time and WorkMax, Mike Merrill.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name's Frank Lorenzo. I am the guest host on today's Mobile Workforce Podcast, and I'm excited to be here. In today's episode, we're celebrating the one-year anniversary of the Mobile Workforce Podcast, and I'm going to be turning the tables and interviewing our esteemed host, Mr. Mike Merrill. During our chat, I'm going to be asking Mike what he's learned from construction leaders over the past years and his predictions for what's ahead. This is going to be real interesting. Thank you for asking me to be the host today, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for doing it, Frank. Looking forward to this. Should be a fun discussion.
All right, let's get into it. For starters, can you recap what you wanted listeners to learn from the Mobile Workforce Podcast? Great question to start.
Sure. I mean, our goal really with the podcast is to really get those conversations going that people either are having in different corners or within their groups and kind of put those out on a broader stage with a louder voice. We want to really help contractors increase their productivity, their profitability, enjoy technology that's available, that's really out there and that could be at their fingertips. And so I think, there's technology, there's people, there's processes, there's all these components that are important in running a successful business. And we wanted to bring some of those together and help, again, bring those best practices to light so others can enjoy and learn from their peers in the industry.
Excellent. Excellent. Mike, I've known you. We go way back. I don't want to say the years because it's a lot, but you've certainly been a force in the industry, still are. And so, what you have to share today is going to be real exciting. So you ready for the next question?
Yeah, sure. Bring it.
Have there been any themes that stuck out to you regarding company culture and construction?
Yeah, I think one of the recurring themes that we hear a lot about and that we've really enjoyed having discussions on is construction safety and the importance of having a culture of safety. Safety can be viewed in many different ways. A lot of it, of course, initially when we hear safety, we're thinking of the physical side of things, but also emotionally and mental wellness and health safety, being aware of the general overall health and well-being of our coworkers and our staff and our employees. I think these are important topics today, and they're conversations that we're happy to have and start and bring more to the light that companies really can have a better understanding of maybe what they're missing out on and some things that they can do to improve and of course, be more successful in business.
Yeah, I really think you hit the nail on the head on that one, Mike. Great response. Thank you. What about how many company cultures can benefit a business's, or how can a company's culture, benefit a business's bottom line?
Well, I would say, again, a safe company is a happy company. Safe employees are happy employees. I think just like being safe, it's also important to be progressive and to be innovative. People want to grow. They want to learn. They want to expand. And I think businesses are very much like us as individuals. They're like a living organism. To thrive and to grow and to progress, they need to have constant attention and care to those things that will allow them to become what they can. And I think employees that are a part of organizations that are growing, that are progressive and proactive on not only safety and culture and inclusiveness, these other things that are hot topics in society, but I think being innovative and trying to give them opportunities to not only expand their own personal career, but also their knowledge and understanding of the world around them. And again, the buildings and the infrastructures that they're actually taking part in helping to produce.
Yep, absolutely. And Mike, we're both supporters and members of the Construction Financial Management Association. And as we both know, a big initiative there is suicide prevention. And it's a tough topic. We don't like to bring it up, but it needs to be addressed. when you say safety and culture and inclusiveness, that comes to mind as well. How can we be improving the experience for our team members in our industry?
I think it's great.
Next question. The labor gap was another issue that came up on the podcast time and time again. Do you see light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, I think in construction we are adaptable. We are survivors. We get through Great Depressions and Great Recessions and all types of different economic environments, material shortages, supply chain disruptions. I think we're going to figure it out. It is a moving target right now. It feels like, and we're definitely experiencing labor shortages everywhere. You mentioned earlier the CFMA conferences and events and that organization. We try and stay plugged into what's going on there. And when I go to a regional event in different parts of the country, I'm hearing the same things. We just need more good help. It's hard to find good help. We're short staffed. We have more backlog than we've ever had. We're busy. We're working overtime, and we just can't quite catch up. So some of the things that we've talked about a lot on the podcast have been the addition of more women in construction. And so that's an exciting area that I think we can help fill some of those labor gaps and those talent gaps that construction companies have. I don't mean just in the office and payroll, but there's people that are drone pilots. There's women. I talked to a gal just a couple of days ago at the National NECA convention that was in Nashville, Tennessee. And I asked what she did for the organization, and she said, "I'm an electrician." And I said, "That's awesome." I said, "What do you do specifically? What's your role?" And she said, "I pull wire and I drill holes and I bend conduit." And I said, "That's awesome." I thought she might be a project manager or something else, but yeah, she's out there in the field getting after it. And I love seeing and hearing about those types of stories.
Yeah, me too, Mike. That's a great one. And I swear I remember something about an inspiring story or a Lime Foundation. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, we had a guest on a couple of episodes, Latisha Henke. She's a business owner in roofing construction out on the California coast. And Latisha also started a foundation called the Lime Foundation. And she actually has a training facility and a program that she's not only done in her area, but she's actually setting up other locations in different parts of the state of California and expanding that out in the country. So I think that's a really important thing. I'm glad you brought that up. Not only do we need to hire more women in construction and look for opportunities to recruit some of these young and new age, more technical talents that are available, but I think making construction more attractive to them and really raising awareness that these are really great organizations to be a part of. It's a great way to provide for your family. You can actually make some really good money doing construction these days. It's definitely, it is blue collar, but I'm seeing some of those blue collars making more than some of the white collars these days, and I love to see that too.
Oh, certainly, me too. They are, and they have fun doing it. If it's something they love and they have a passion for, you just see it. It exudes kind of that energy. It's great. I agree. And you mentioned Lime Foundation. We talked about CFMA. Another group I just throw out in the mix that's doing some great things is the Women in Construction as well.
Yeah, NAWIC, the National Association for Women in Construction. And we've had the former past president on the podcast. We've had some of the regional presidents. Just lots of great discussions around the opportunities that exist in construction for women. Had another young gal that's recently graduated from college. She's actually a drone operator for a large construction company. That's her full-time job. And there's a lot of young ladies out there that are very talented with the drones and very technical. And I think that's a great asset and a technology that we're seeing rise up that is completely new to the industry altogether. So really, really cool stuff going on.
It is leading edge, and you say that, and I think I hear a drone overhead. They might be trying to spy on our podcast.
It's me, Frank. I'm making sure, checking your lighting. Oh.
You are. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So this one I'm excited about too. What has made you hopeful for the future of construction?
I think the thing that excites me about it is that not only are we being more safe and are we being more efficient, more green, we're finding ways to reuse and use recycled materials and to be cleaner in the way that we're producing buildings and more responsible as far as the planet goes. I think we're also learning how to be safer. That's an exciting thing to see. We're building these incredible structures that seem almost impossible to the human eye to, you don't even have to go to Las Vegas anymore or Dubai to see buildings that are awe-inspiring and structures that are truly amazing. I was just down in Dallas, Texas, and looking at the Cowboys Stadium and seeing what they did with that building. And we've got some customers, actually K-Post, roofing contractor down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that is a premier sponsor with the Dallas Cowboys. They actually did the roof on that building. So just seeing what these companies are doing and the buildings that they're involved in building and creating and doing it safely is just really cool to see from an industry that is really known as being a little bit behind when it comes to the adoption of technology and innovation from the rest of the world's technological standards.
Yeah, Mike, and you mentioned, it just came to me, when you mentioned Nashville, I was also at NECA, honored to be there. And I remember walking down one early morning to get to the convention center, and there's quite a bit of construction going on there. And there was a nice building, I think, next to the JW Marriott being built. But what really struck me was some of the workforce, some of the folks, few guys and gals down there, taking pictures of the building, their work. You could see the pride in what they were doing, and it was exciting. And the other thing that I love because of the adoption of technology is how much smaller a footprint in staging and things there is to get these buildings in place. You know what I mean? It's just, we are now adopting technology to a point that you can see.
Yeah, they're building them in tighter quarters. Again, there's so many, there's a lot of regulation. There are a lot of things with OSHA and with the EPA, other organizations that are in place to help make sure that we're doing things not only safely but responsibly as far as the environment goes. So I like to see those things too. I think it's important that we're aware of the environment around us and that we take that into account. But I know, just like you, looking at that Music City Center, the Nashville Convention Center, I mean, there was this design on the ceiling like it's a fretboard of a guitar, and I'm looking at these chains that are hung from a ceiling. They had to be, 100 feet tall that look like guitar strings, but they're twisted in an artistic fashion. And I'm seeing the architecture, not just the construction, but the way that the design and the inside of the building is even decorated. And it's just an amazing place to be and to behold, and to know that a lot of those folks that were there at NECA, they're doing projects like these all over the place. And I just love to see blue collar guys win and do well and do things that are notable and inspiring, because I think they work really hard and I think they deserve more credit than maybe we often give them as a society. And those are my people. I'm cut from that same cloth. So.
Absolutely. And Mike, you said something that resonated with me when we talked about, you made a comment about, construction is a perceived industry lagging in technology. I think we'd all agree that's generally, I've spent 36 years now in the construction technology space, and the joke always was, they'll buy a backhoe before they invest in software, right? But, an observation, I'd love your opinion on this from your senior expertise level. I'm seeing that kind of a paradigm shift there. And I think part of it might be the millennials and the younger folks now entering our industry, because, 10, 20 years ago, I would meet with a wall of resistance when talking about how technology might help a new potential company. But now I'm almost pushed on the technology side by the next generation. Hey, if I can't do it all on this device, I don't want it, or if I can't find it on YouTube, it's probably not worth looking at. What's your thoughts on how that entry into our industry of the next generation, millennials and so forth, maybe Gen Z, I don't know, has affected our adoption of technology? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think we have a lot of work yet to do. I still feel like, you mentioned at NECA, we talked we had a booth there, and we talked to about 350 different individuals in the electrical space. And we ask certain questions, and we try and learn and understand what's going on in their business and what things are important. And we figure it was somewhere nearly 60% of the companies and the people that we talked with are still on paper or spreadsheets to collect time and labor and production and some of their project management, initiatives. And so I still think we've got more than half of the industry that is behind. But at the same time, we have other companies that are, really digging deep into technology. They have drones, they have robots, they're using BIM, right? They're doing all of these things that, we talk about and that we see and that we kind of preach about every day, and they're doing them really well. I mean, they're employing IT staff. Some of them have software engineers on staff to help plug in and integrate their multiple systems that they're running and managing. So I think there's a disparity. I think companies that aren't on that technology train are late to the party. I think it's going to get tougher for them to compete in the industry. And right now the getting's good everywhere. I mean, we heard that a lot too. But I think those days are numbered of companies saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm just going to stick with my paper.
Right. And Mike, very good thoughts on that. And it kind of leads me to this next thought. What are your thoughts on how the pandemic, I know the pandemic has given us kind of a quick shove, I'll call it, into remote workforces. And we also have a labor shortage in general, which you touched on. How is technology helping companies do more with less people, in a sense? I think I see some companies, maybe they're reluctantly doing it, but they almost find that their best avenue to success is technology because they can't just hire more bodies like they used to maybe in the past.
Right. Well, I would say, I mean, this is your wheelhouse really, but BI and dashboarding and data that is at people's fingertips, even in the field, that they didn't have before without physically talking to somebody or visiting the site in person. I think that collaboration opportunity is better than ever. And I think the pandemic has forced companies to get used to working remotely, not only on a construction project, but actually collaborating, getting on Teams meetings and Zoom meetings and conference calls, video chats. I know for us, I mean, we've been doing that for 15 plus years to do presentations remotely. And even 5 years ago, a lot of even large companies would struggle to get on those meetings. They didn't maybe know how to, they weren't fluid or fluent or able to successfully navigate those with ease. And now people are going to church through Zoom, or they're doing all kinds of taking Zumba classes or whatever it is. I mean, it's all remote. So I think the pandemic has forced the construction industry to not only embrace, but depend on these technologies. So I'd say that's a positive silver lining that's come and kind of raised from the ashes of some of this really tragic and terrible stuff that's going on. So I think, if we can learn to fail forward and use these tools that seem to feel new to a lot of companies to our advantage, and rather than resist, lean into this technology opportunity that exists, because it's everywhere you look, and construction's just kind of a little bit last of the dinner party on a lot of fronts with that.
Yep. And quick comment on that, and then I've got another question for you. Surprise, surprise. But if we can deliver to the field, when you mentioned data and business intelligence, what comes to my mind is arming the field with what I like to call the 3Ds: access to data, dialogue, and documents. If they can see their data, the corresponding dialogue around that data, any a collaboration, if you will, and then the documents that back up that data, invoices, POs, things like that. If they have that at their fingertips, it's just, one, they can be much more impactful and immediate decision making to correct something before it's too late. But two, they don't have to run back to the office, as you alluded to. So the technology's there today to do it finally, which leads to my next question. You can certainly comment on that and then answer this question. So here we go. What has surprised you the most about the adoption of mobile technology in construction up to now?
I would say Really, there's two parts to that. Number one, I'm surprised at how well some companies are doing with it. Um, I'm not necessarily surprised at the ROI and the money they're saving and making, the profitability they're realizing, but I'm pleasantly surprised to see that they're acknowledging the benefit, and that the companies that get it and that really understand it and work through the challenge, that dip that, where it gets really difficult and hard, and it would be easy to just shrink back to old habits and go back to the status quo, but they lean into it, and they say, no, we're going to get through this, we're going to figure it out, we're going to get this in place because we believe it's important. Once they get to the sunny side of that hill, they they're always so grateful and so excited about this whole new world of opportunity that they now have, because they've recognized that they are so much more efficient than they ever could have been with those old methods. So that's pleasantly surprising. On the opposite side, I am still shocked when you talk to 1,000 or 2,000 employee company that truly has paper reports and Excel spreadsheets and is still emailing and communicating through old methods to build these projects. I mean, they're doing a great job. They're doing some of these companies are doing hundreds of millions or even over $1 billion a year in revenue, and yet some of their processes are still on paper or in spreadsheets. So that still surprises me that they haven't just made that switch.
Yeah, me as well. I mean, Mike, I've spoken to one or two of actually your clients using your technologies, and what I love is as resistant as they may have been to adopt it initially. When I asked the loaded question, hey, let's say we had to remove that, you're going to go back to your paper process. You're not taking away my mobile device. Now you're not taking away my technology. Once they adopt it, they become, I wouldn't say dependent, but it improves their process and improves their job. They don't want to take it away. It's just getting over that initial discomfort to adopt it, I think.
Well, and to your point earlier, and something I touched on as well, this new generation that's coming out of college, they're not going to know what to do with these old school systems. I mean, uh, at least a Google Sheets collaborative and live. I mean, it's still not where I need the data, and there's I need it to speak to other systems, and we need integration. That's a key thing in everything that we're doing. But I just think that the rising generation and then the baby boomers that are outgoing, I think that tide is turning, and the sooner companies can recognize that and enjoy the goodness that there is to be had, the better off they're not only going to be financially from a P&L standpoint, but actually the culture and the thriving, growing, excited, just innovative spirit of that company will be more attractive to these young kids that grew up with an iPhone in their hand.
No question. They're totally dependent. I keep pointing it out, but my kids would never let me forget it. We have 6 of them, so believe me, I know. Um, but it's spreadsheets you mentioned, and I recall one instance where the project manager had a spreadsheet, showed it to me, and was so proud of it. Look at the pie chart of my spreadsheet. Look at how nice it was. It was impressive. And I asked a question. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I said, "How do you know that cost number is accurate? Where does it come from?" I don't really know. Well, that's something we should talk about, right? That's something we should fix. As we know, Excel's a great tool for interacting with some data, but it's not a great siloed database in and of itself. I mean, I'm sure you would agree. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is we live in a real time world. I mean, Amazon Prime and on demand, and I mean, my family, we watch half of our movies at home now that are new releases, sometimes pre-releases. You can get the Disney stuff at home before it hits the theater. So we're used to that type of world everywhere else we go in our day-to-day life. Why in the world would we take our business, that's the heart and soul of our income and how we provide for our family and our employees' families, and why in the world would we go backwards in how we're managing our affairs there? when we would never do that in life. The paper's dead. It's not alive. It's not growing. It's not shareable without physically handing it to somebody. And in this virtual real-time world, we've got to move forward. And I think the building trades are catching on to that like never before. It's really exciting to see. I think it's only going to help us get more efficient and not only safer, not only faster, not only more profitably, but it's just a better way to do things.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Thank you, Mike. That's a great answer. And we've both been long time, I think, servants to some respects, industry professionals in construction. We both have a passion for helping contractors just get better, improve. And, there's so much technology today to help do that. And the other comment, Mike, I'll make, and I'd love your thoughts on, is the price points. It's no longer just the purview of the big boys any longer. Technology is, the price points continue to come down. Cloud access, mobile access. So small contractors, and how you define small, is an opinion, but almost any contractor, I'll put it that way, can leverage these technologies now. And what are your thoughts? Would you agree? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I had this conversation dozens of times at that NICA event just this week, actually. Just 2 days ago, I was there on the trade show floor, and I continued to have really good discussions with companies that had 10 or 15 or 20 employees. And they were pleasantly surprised to hear, this same system that we're talking about, the same mobile technology that you can have for cheap, because you don't need a lot of access or licenses or data. You can have the same data that this 6,000 employee company is using, the same tools. And so you're never going to bump your head on that ceiling. You can just expand and grow, right? To your heart's content, and you're never going to outgrow that system. So that wasn't the case 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
Right. Implementations might cost a company 30, 40, 50 grand to even get a system in place of any size. And so today, when you can be set up really on your own, possibly in 30 minutes and ready to go, I mean, that's just nuts. But it's there, it's available, it's possible, and you can take advantage of it even if you got 10 employees.
So, Mike, would you agree? We could almost summarize and say that unlike 10 years ago, today, both cost and technical complexity, I'll call it, should no longer be a barrier to entry into using tools that are available today.
Yeah, most systems have a more modern UI, user interface. That there's a lot of self-serving options. There's default settings. Maybe different systems offer different tiers, possibly, of capability. And if not, I mean, in our particular case, it's the same system. So we just automate a lot of those things. And then YouTube videos and training and the Zoom stuff, all these things that have happened. You don't have to send 3 guys on an airplane for a week and feed them and pay for them to, overtime, and they're away from their families, and charge, a couple $100 an hour or more for every guy. And that doesn't necessarily have to happen. You can pay those people to train you from their office remotely. And even if the hourly rate is the same, they don't have to jump on an airplane and incur all those other expenses in order to get you the same benefit, maybe even better. They're more efficient when all those tools are at their fingertips and when they can do things remotely. So I just think I can't see any side of this that isn't so much better than it was even 5 years ago at this point.
And, Mike, one thing I've always appreciated with you, and you just did it again, by the way, we talk about business efficiencies, cost savings, but you always bring it back to people. And the people are the most important thing, away from their families, you said a few times. So how technology can also help the lifestyle and the culture, as we started with, of our people. It's always been top of mind for you, and I've always appreciated it. So thank you for mentioning that again.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. And I know you feel the same way. And a lot of the folks that we collaborate with and work with in the industry, especially from the technology side, a lot of us understand that. And I think software just makes your life better. Good software, good systems just improve your experience. And this is really no different. And I think an improved experience makes for better, happier people.
Yeah, and with the technology adoption, I said this to Nika, to somebody I was speaking with. I don't know how to use these systems. So I asked him, "Do you have a cell phone?" Yes, he had an iPhone. I think it was an iPhone, may have been an Android, but pulls out his iPhone. I said, "Do you text on it?" "Yeah, I text the kids." "Okay, all right, they text you." "Do you use LinkedIn?" "Yes." "Do you ever Google anything?" "Yes." You have more technical proficiency than you realize to adopt these tools. You're already halfway there. Bravo. Let's move forward. You know. Would you agree with that? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I think again, if you look at anybody's phone, I mean, I've read and heard and seen all kinds of different studies. There's, the average company is using between 5 and 9 applications to run their business on their phones. Uh, I know personally, people usually have 4 to 5 times that. I mean, a lot of people have over 50 apps on their phone. You might have 12 or 16 or 9, whatever the number is on your home screen, and every one of those are an app. You're logging into your bank account or checking your Gmail, or they're all applications. So it's the same stuff, just for a little bit different purpose, and it's more related to
Exactly.
business. So
Yep. Exactly right. Well, on to another question. Let's pretend for a moment you have a crystal ball and we're going to do a lightning round. So, you ready? What are your predictions for first one? Supply chain improvements. Go.
I think we're going to see a lot more automation. I think systems are they're already doing it. They're auto ordering when inventory levels are low. I think mobile technologies are getting better for controls to be put in place to continue to recognize when you're running short or when you need more of something. And I think the ability to get those from a supplier, and the ability of the supplier to get those from their supplier, will continue to improve and increase, just like Amazon over the U.S. mail service. I think everything is going that way, and so I'm excited about those improvements, because as we've all seen, there's been major disruptions for all types of other reasons in society with everything going on, and it's making us figure this stuff out. So I think having it really, really broken like it's been ultimately will be a blessing in disguise one day, because it's just forcing us to figure it out sooner.
You know what? I agree with you. Out of every, adversity or challenge, there can be something that good that will come from it. And one I mentioned to a client probably a month or so ago, walked into their big conference room, and prior to the pandemic, for example, their conference meetings were the speakerphone in the middle of the table. That was it. Now there's screens and cameras because they're doing Zoom meetings everywhere. Technology adoption right before our eyes. Okay, next one here, wearable technologies. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we've had guests on the podcast that talk about. Amy Pierce was just on. She's an incredible technology expert. Her episode, I think, comes out next week. Keynote speaker, really, really sharp gal, and she talked a lot about that. Wearables, hard hats, helmets that are reading heart rate and pulse, and can actually detect fall detection. And if somebody's struggling or staggering, or I mean, really, it's BI for the body. It's just like
Measuring heart rates and,
yeah,
and blood pressures or
yeah,
whatever
your
things like
pulse. If
pulse.
you're overly stressed.
Yep.
I wear a Garmin Phoenix 5 watch for my trail runs, or it's doing my heart rate. It's doing my BMI. It's measuring everything about my physical health.
Yeah. I don't know if I like it though when the phone tells me time to stand up and walk around, but it is a good thing. It is a good thing. Um, and wearable technologies is certainly making a splash into our industry big time, which is exciting. Another topic, highly interesting one, diversity on the job site.
I think this is more important than ever. I think we really need to redefine, to a degree, what the role that we're looking to fill looks like. Right now, again, a lot of us may have this stereotypical thing in mind. When you're thinking of an electrician or a plumber, and that could be anybody. Man, woman,
Right.
young man, young woman, doesn't matter their ethnicity or anything else. These roles can be filled by anybody who has a desire. I actually, interesting. point, we found a really cool ladder system that was exhibiting right next to us. And these ladders are actually, they're made of Kevlar, so they're actually shock resistant. And they've got a ladder that goes like 16 plus feet tall that weighs like 29 pounds and can hold 400 pounds on it. And the vendor was telling me that one of the largest solar installers in the United States is now employing over 50% of their field installers as women. And it's because they can carry this ladder now. And so that's an innovation. It's not software, but it is technology. It is innovation, and it is allowing for women to enter a workforce that was a struggle before because of the size of their frame or their strength. They had a harder time carrying those big ladders that they would need to get up on those roofs. And that's not a problem anymore because somebody solved it. So I love that.
Yeah, and as a side benefit, you say Kevlar, I can't help but mention it may be bulletproof too, I guess, right? So it's always a good thing.
Yeah, that's right.
GPS technology, that's permeating everywhere now, even in data analytics, which I'll mention. But what are your thoughts on how that's impacting our industry?
I think it's revolutionized so many aspects, not just finding the job anymore, but how we do it. I mean, the system knows already where the job is. The office knows where the staff and the personnel are in relation to the job. If there's a question or a safety issue or a challenge or a problem, they've got data analytics and dashboards to view who to reach out to, who's physically closest to that site, or who's actually in proximity of that issue. So I think just that visibility, not just for navigation, but visibility of where our resources are at, whether that be equipment, tools, employees, where a form was completed, where a picture was taken, just validating. I think having that data in a litigation or lawsuit or some type of a liability situation with OSHA or with workers' comp, it's just allowing the truth to be known more readily by more people, and so we can get to the facts quicker and get back to building things and improving safety.
Or say the facts are friendly, so I think you're right about that. This one's exciting to me too. They all are, but I saw this at Future Tech, robotics and drones. And when I say robotics, Mike, the vests that make you stronger, almost like helps you lift the weights or hold the drill. I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you have, but what are your thoughts on how that's impacting our industry?
Yeah, it's amazing. And we talk about making the ladder lighter. Well, how about making the vest, assist in the lifting and making you stronger? I mean, it's a real thing that's commercially available today. I saw a robotic dog-looking robot at the Trimble booth at NECA this week, and I was talking to one of the folks at Trimble, Rocco Bognett, and we were talking about how much more safely certain tasks in construction can be done because now a robot can do what a human previously would have had to do. If there's fumes or if there's a temperature issue, now we can send a robot in. What drones, I mean, that's a whole other level. If you're in the roofing industry, even as an estimator, you don't have to pull that heavy ladder out anymore. You can sit there from the comfort of your car on the street, parked safely at the curb, and get every measurement, every view that you need. And so, and they're a few $100. So, and now there's a new opportunity for a drone pilot, and it doesn't matter, their age or their gender or their skin color. They can fly a drone. Why?
Absolutely.
Because they're using mobile apps, right? They're using Snapchat, so they can fly a drone.
Mike, one of our kids is a whiz with Xbox. I tell him, hey, maybe you could have a career in flying a drone or something. Let's work on that. So I think you're right on.
Yeah, and I don't mean to undermine, that is a skill. Flying a drone is a lot harder than being on Snapchat. But the point is that same tool that you're using to get on Snapchat now, that mobile phone, that device, could enable you to fly that drone, and you could get a certification. You could get an opportunity to be an intern somewhere and actually have a career in something that, maybe you're not ever going to really be a true helicopter pilot, but you could certainly fly a drone and provide a value. And again, it's a safety measure. It's an efficiency tool. It's a fuel savings. how much greener is charging the drone battery versus, the fuel that it takes for an organization to, dispatch and deploy a force of people to go do those multiple jobs and things that, somebody could do safely from the street in a drone. And maybe they were in a Tesla or a hybrid car or some other way that again, we're just leaving a greener footprint. So I just see everything's better with good technology.
Absolutely. And drones, I mean, surveying, safety inspections, it circles back to what you said in the beginning. Improve safety, more inclusiveness, because anybody can have the skill set. It's not a strength thing anymore. So I think you're right on there. What about construction software and the innovation path? What do you think about that?
I think we're seeing, I mean, this is a different level of discussion, but we're seeing big money investors getting into the space, putting a lot more money in. We're seeing that software companies, there's always consolidation and these things go into cycles, but lots of large companies are investing in smaller businesses to expand their footprint and take advantage of their technology to then get it to more people. And so that's allowing for additional innovation. That's putting more money into hire developers and software engineers and innovators. And I think as more companies adopt these technologies, of course, they're going to give better feedback and more feedback. And then that feedback is going to produce the opportunity for those engineers to develop better systems and to streamline further. We see that, every day in our business. I know you do in yours. The products are getting better. They're getting faster. They're getting easier to use.
Easier. Yep.
That's really the key. When you talk about innovation, it's one thing to build a better mousetrap, but a mousetrap that everybody can use safely without, getting their fingers snapped on that's a better mousetrap, right? One that nobody gets hurt by, but it still solves the same problem. And I think technology is able to provide a path that we can do things quicker, easier, safer, greener, more efficient, and all of that equals more profitability, less wasted money and revenue and resource. So there's just no reason to not find those tools. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like win-win-win. So last one, Mike, really quick. So over the last 30 years in the industry, we've seen systems get better and better. So now contractors have collected really reams and reams of information, of data. I used to say if I could pick up the old server and dump it on the desk, there's probably more data than I could ever get my arms around. So how do you see tools like Power BI or data analytics or leveraging that data impacting our industry, if at all? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, yeah, the paper things, the easy answer is, there's no need for the paper. And this, that's a great first step. But more than that, without wasting time, I now have visibility. It's right at my fingertips. And digging through, a report that's 42 pages versus having a dashboard that shows me something in red when there's an issue because it knows the parameters, I can now make a decision in seconds that might have taken me hours, right? And when we do that, we're not in the way of the next guy either. So everybody wins when the guy before them gets done quicker and more on time and more properly, like BIM and other things that these collision detections beforehand. I mean, all of that feeds into Power BI and it just helps us build better buildings quicker.
Absolutely. Well said, Mike. Thank you. So lastly, and you had to know this one was coming because I know you ask all your guests these last questions. So you ready? What is the main takeaway you would like the listeners to leave with today?
I would just say, and this is what most of our guests echo this in one form or fashion or another, but plug into technology. I mean, leverage the goodness that's there to be had. It's everywhere. There are opportunities for you to improve processes in just about every facet of your business. And I think prioritizing those is important, but do something, fix something, find something. It doesn't even have to be broken. What's something that's a hassle? Identify that and then look at options to improve that. And guess what? If you do 1% better every day, in a quarter, you're going to be 100% improved, and it'll change your business forever, and it will change your culture, and it'll change your mindset where your perspective will be different. So lean into the goodness, adopt technology, don't resist it. And I promise you, you'll be grateful that you did.
Well said, Mike. Thank you. Next one. What's something you're grateful for in your professional life?
I honestly just feel so blessed to work with so many incredible people. I love the technology for construction industry. I love the construction industry. It's the heart and soul of what makes America the most amazing country in the world, in my opinion, but also the world. The world is tied to the heartbeat of our buildings and construction and growth. We all live or work or eat food at night in restaurants that somebody built, somebody wired, somebody plumbed, somebody poured the concrete on. It just touches every aspect of our life. And so I'm just thankful to work with so many great people that make all that happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Last one. What skill have you developed that you would say, quote, has become your superpower, end quote?
Well, I think if I had to boil it down to one word, I would say positivity. I think it's a gift that I was born with, to try and look on that bright side and find it. If I can't find it, work to create it. And I think it goes back to people, really. I think my love for people and learning about them, listening to them, trying to see how I can be helpful to them, maybe being mentored by them. I mean, that's something that is something that I've really learned in my later years to enjoy is, what can I learn from this kid? Or what can I learn from this elderly person? I don't think that, when I was younger, I recognized how much I could learn from others. And so I think just leaning positive on all of the good things that are going on around me, despite all of the craziness and the things that are depressing and difficult. I don't like turning the news on anymore. I used to watch the news every night like my parents did and their parents did. And I just don't, I get what I need from the sources that I choose, but generally there's a lot going on. I try and stay plugged into it, but I'm focused on controlling this world that's around me and those that I love and those that I work with every day. And so I think just remaining positive and trying to help create an environment where not only myself can be optimistic and happy, but I can bring that optimism and that happiness to others is really what, it just feels like that's what I'm here to do. And it just makes me excited that I get to live in such a wonderful time, despite the craziness that we have all these great things that are exciting to enjoy in life. Good time to be alive.
Mike, I've always said it. You are just a quality human being, simply put, a professional. I appreciate it. Been my honor, honestly, to have this dialogue with you on the podcast today. And, in today's world, my handshakes are more virtual, so I'm going to give you a virtual handshake. Right. Great job. And anything else you'd like to say for the listeners before we depart?
No, just thank you for listening, and thank you for plugging into the conversations we're having. Love to hear your feedback. Who else do you want us to bring on? What do you want us to talk about? What's not being discussed that should be? And what are you loving that we are talking about that we need to do a little bit more of? And that would be really awesome if we could just get your feedback and continue to have your support, sharing the episode, giving us those ratings and reviews, and just lock arms with us, and we'll continue to try and bring this value to you free of charge.
Folks, you heard it straight from the man himself. You have ideas you think would be good for the podcast, you'd like to be involved, send it on in. I think Mike would love to hear it. So, Mike, thank you, and thank you, listeners, for today, and everybody have a great day. Take care.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mobile Workforce Podcast, sponsored by About Time Technologies and WorkMax. If you liked the conversation we had today, or were able to learn anything new or helpful, please make sure to follow us on our WorkMax page on LinkedIn and on Instagram at WorkMax_. And subscribe to the show on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform so you will never miss another insightful episode. Also, If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review and share the show with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and will allow us to continue providing impactful information with others looking to improve their results in their business and, in turn, their life.